What's good? It's Miss Stora. For today's video, y'all, I kind of just want to talk, right? I don't really got a full script or anything like that. You can consider this a rant, discussion, whatever you want. But I'm going to say that this video is a public service announcement. This right here is a public service announcement for my fellow gamers out there. But this also applies to like books, anime, movies, or any other fandom, really, right? But when discussing opinions on video games or looking at reviews, for all my gamers out there, if someone else happens to dislike a game you just so happen to really like or even strongly connect with, and they voice that opinion, listen, y'all, it is not an attack on you as a person, I promise you. And that game you love does not need to be defended by you as if it was an attack on your character. I promise you. I promise you. I'm telling you. Case in point, let's go over a few, right? Recently, IGN gave Spider-Man 2 an 8 out of 10 for the review score, right? And some people just straight up lost it. Now, I get how it doesn't make sense to some people, myself included, for sure, for transparency, how, considering they gave the last two Spider-Man games a 9 out of 10, and this sequel seems superior to those previous games, an 8 out of 10 may not make a whole lot of sense. But still, right? It's not worth getting so worked up over, I promise you. And for some other recent examples, let's go to Starfield. With some of the, let's say, meh reviews that it got, I personally consider the game just good. A solid 7.5 out of 10 if we're keeping it real. But the game still sold incredibly well. It sold really well. So there's not really a whole lot here for dedicated fans of the game and Bethesda to be upset about, like at all. Because in spite of that, it still got some good reviews and it's selling just outright amazingly. Selling like hotcakes, even with Game Pass being a thing, right? It's still selling actual full copies really well. So not a whole lot for people to be upset about, at least not to the level that I'm talking about in this video with, I'm specifically talking about how some people just have a lot of animosity towards people that have these opinions, right? And for me, personally, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the best game released in the past decade. I stand by that as my personal opinion. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. But regardless of how special that game is for me, I still don't take it personal if someone just couldn't vibe with the game for any number of reasons. You know what I'm saying? They could not like it because, you know, they don't like turn-based games, but they heard so many great things about it. They still wanted to try it. And there are some people that gave the game a shot. They said, I don't really like turn-based RPGs in general, but you know what? People are saying so much great stuff about it. I'm going to try it. And they loved it. And I'm so happy for those people. But there's some that are in the exact same boat. But hey, I tried it in spite of what everyone was saying. I just couldn't mess with it. And that's cool. It's completely okay to just disagree on that front, right? Now, of course, this does come with a caveat, right? This isn't including things, you got your obvious malicious reviews, let's say, right? You got reviews that come from review bombing or whatever, which is stupid that can even happen. That's worth speaking out against. That's worth defending because that kind of thing can just straight up ruin so many games before they even realize their full potential, or games that were great, but someone giving it a passing glance like a review site or on Steam or whatever, they see that bad score and they don't even give it a second look if it was a game they would have really loved. That's more so applicable to smaller titles, AA, indie titles, more so. For most of the AAA games, we're seeing a lot of coverage on it, a lot of press coverage, stuff like that. So you're already making informed decisions before reviews, but for some other games, you may not, right? Death Road to Canada, I didn't even know of that game's existence up until launch. I only found out about it after it released. If I would have been scrolling through, Steam for zombie games and I saw that game got review bombed or whatever, I may have just skipped over it. That would have been bad. We should be speaking out against review bombing. That's completely fair. And I also think that, of course, being skeptical of review outlets or even popular big single person reviewers isn't a bad thing inherently. It's not, since they do get early access to highly anticipated games. So some people make the conclusion, I think fairly, that's a healthy bit of skepticism there. They made the conclusion that there's an incentive there for those reviewers to keep devs and publishers happy. So a fair bit of skepticism, that's cool. But still, when it comes to just someone legitimately not liking a game, it's fine to disagree and have a discussion. I'm not saying we can't do that. Hell, I myself, I've even picked apart other people's reviews critically over Callisto Protocol, which I thought was judged unfairly by most, because even if it wasn't an amazing game, it was still good to great. I personally am like in the great camp. I think I gave it an 8 out of 10, right? You know, I specifically was kind of the reviews of a few individuals. A lot of people's reviews of that game rubbed me the wrong way. But just to get specific, I love the Sphere Hunter. I love Susie. I love her concept. But that review of that game rubbed me the wrong way. Same for Skill Up. So I was like, no, okay, I'm going to make my own video. It was a long format YouTube video kind of critiquing their review of that game. That's civil, that's discussion. There was no name calling. There was just maybe like, hey, some missed opportunity in there. That kind of civility, that's cool. That's completely fine. But I've been seeing just an insane amount of animosity lately in the gaming community over opinions. I feel like it's gotten crazy as of late, at least to me personally, right? And a lot of it has to do with this whole console war thing that some people make it out to be a way more serious thing than it has any right being, right? Console wars have existed since back in the day. I remember them as a kid. I remember them back in the day with, you know, Sega versus Nintendo, PlayStation versus Xbox, like the first Xbox, PlayStation 1, you know, versus Nintendo still. Like, I remember it. It was a much bigger thing, you know, back in, not bigger thing, but it was still a thing back in the Dreamcast days and so on and so forth. The console wars aren't anything new. And then there's the console versus PC camp and all that stuff. None of this stuff is new, but I think what we're seeing is with an advent of gamers that are literally born into the internet age, because my age, I'm going to be 30 soon. I'm going to be 30 soon for full context, right? I was still part of the group of people that were born and the internet wasn't a thing. Like, I was born and the popularization of the internet kind of happened when I was around very young, going into like 6, anywhere, you know, and then the internet started being really popular to browse, you know, Newgrounds and stuff like that around the time I was like 12, 10 or whatever, right? So we weren't born straight into the internet. We're seeing a lot, and I think the reason that this console war stuff is just getting so much more intense is the advent of social media, and also you got people that are just born into the internet age. They identify a lot with these games, some of them being intrinsic to console specific console identity. So they get a lot of their identity and a lot of their pride wrapped in not only these games that mean a lot to them, because hey, there's some games that mean a lot to me too. There's some games, if someone like crap talked Larry and Larry Studios like in person in the street, I might have some hard words for them. Like, hey, they work hard in their games, man. Back up off my studio, all right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I could understand that. But some people nowadays get a lot of their identity, a lot of intrinsically who they are, a lot of their pride intrinsically wrapped up in these console teams, essentially. Are you team Xbox? Are you team PlayStation? Are you team Nintendo? And they have such a hard time separating themselves from that. So if someone, I see it all the time because I'm a very big opponent of Nintendo. I really don't think, there are some of their games that are really high quality lately, but some of their stuff is just unexcusable. But if you dare blast a Pokemon game for not being of good quality, like if you dare blast a Pokemon game for any reasons, there's some Nintendo fanboys, and each console has fanboy. I'm not talking about one specifically, it's bad, but Xbox has fanboys, Sony has fanboys, right? But if you dare blast a Pokemon game, there's a certain group of Nintendo fans that will come after you. It'll get straight to the point of like threats in your DMs, right? Other creators have experiences, so I think it's just so much more vitriolic lately, right? That's kind of what inspired this video. So it kind of turned a little bit into a console war rant, but I think this whole console war thing ties back into this whole gamers, why are we getting so upset over these reviews? It all ties back in. I want to tie it back into the fact that, yo, if someone doesn't like a game, it's not an attack on you as a person, right? And if someone doesn't like a game or gives it a bad review, even though you have a big part of your identity is, oh man, I'm a super diehard Nintendo fan, I've loved these games since I was a kid, or I'm a super diehard Sony or Xbox fan. If someone dislikes a game that was very important for your platform, it's cool, yo. You can chill. These are million, sometimes $billion entertainment corporations. They're going to be fine. I promise you they're going to be just fine, even though someone dislikes their game. Where that really should be pointed at is for some of these smaller games. If you still have some of that frustration, I urge you to take that energy and kind of direct it at some of these smaller games that really might need that defense. Some of these smaller games that might be, I'll say, like, for example, great example is Party Animals, right? I don't know if it's a smaller studio. I'm not saying that made it. I'm not quite sure, but it's a $20 game. So if someone's approaching Party Animals with the same kind of like really harsh critique, putting it under a super fine lens and get really deep into the nitty gritty of the game and like, oh, lambasting, it's like, bro, it is a $20 game. I think defending games kind of that fall on that core, or like Sea of Stars, games like that, that's like, hey, if people are being too harsh on a game from like a budding studio or something like that, I think that it's a little bit more acceptable, at least in my opinion, to kind of get up in arms about it. But even still, animosity, just, there's no place for it, right? there's no place for it. If someone's being obviously malicious with the intent to do harm to a game that really doesn't need it, like to hurt its sales or something like that, and it's obviously a high quality product, but they're doing it for one reason or the other, to be malicious, rather than just getting up in arms in it, just report those people. You know what I'm saying? Report those people on the appropriate platforms, or just credit their reviews. Look into their review history. If it's like you saw it for Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom and such like that, people making brand new accounts, I think, to review Baldur's Gate 3, and it's like there was one where they had 2 reviews on their account. They had one review for Tears of the Kingdom and one review for Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3, they gave it a 0 on Metacritic, and they gave it 100 on Tears of the Kingdom. Like, that kind of stuff is all right. Just report those accounts, stuff like that. No need to get all up in arms about it, because we live in a day and age where we grant people attention sometimes for the wrong thing. Someone will make one of these views for the sake of attention, and if we would have just ignored it, wouldn't have even been as even a big deal. So I say again, to bring this point home, y'all, it's not worth getting upset over, right? Whether you're an Xbox person, a Sony person, a Nintendo person, bad reviews are going to happen for any game. There's not going to be a game that comes out ever that gets 100% gleaming reviews across the board. It's just never going to happen for any platform. It ain't, no matter how much a game means to you. There's some games out there that I have a strong emotional connection with. Metal Gear Solid series, stuff like that. There's some games that hit me on a deep emotional level. Some people just ain't gonna like them. Some people are just not gonna like them, and that's gonna happen, especially because these console fanboys and PC fanboys across any of the factions, right, or whatever, right? Someone's gonna see a 10 out of 10 game that was like super close, making 10 out of 10 out of spite. They're gonna review it bad. It's just gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. So for your own mental peace, bro, just take a, bros, my girls out there, everybody, all my gamers out there, just take a chill pill, relax. It's not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, gaming is supposed to be fun. So let's all just chill out with some of these reactions to reviews and such, and just have a good time. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this video, y'all. Like I said, I just wanted to talk for a bit, kind of a little bit of a rant on this thing. Some of the topics I discussed in these videos are worth, not in this video specifically, are worth its own video or discussion all of itself, right? I could talk at length about I might do it someday, talking length about the scape of reviews and how, hey, we got all these outlets and big reviewers that get these review codes, and there's a lot of foul play or suspicion of foul play in regards to that. Like, they want to keep these devs and publishers please. I could talk at length even more about this topic. I could talk in length more about the console war, but I really just want to address this specific thing I'm seeing on social media, where some people, they just get way too personal when a game they like gets a bad review. And I'm honestly, I'm not sick of seeing it, but it's like annoying to see. It's like, fam, why give something that's supposed to be fun, video games, that much animosity, negative energy in your life, right? But that's gonna do it for this video. As always, I will catch you on the next one. Y'all be easy, man. Peace.